Next up is adaptive strategy. Now, strategy is a very big topic. It's a favorite topic of mine. What I'm going to talk about today isn't the whole thing about strategy, but just the idea of organizing outcomes into something strategic. And you'll begin to see how continuous transformation isn't just evolution. It's not just trying a few things and seeing what sticks. There can be a real strategy to it. There can be some objectives that, we're identifying areas of uncertainty where learning is going to have to happen. We can identify constraints, obstacles that we accept, for example. All the hallmarks of strategy, of good strategy, we can apply here. So very simple visualization of outcomes. We could take all the outcomes that you put into chat, and we could organize them short-term, medium-term, long-term. Stick them all in the medium-term column and spread them. Spread the long-term ones go one way, the short-term ones go the other. So the long-term ones, things that sound aspirational. The short-term ones, things that we can work on right away. And hopefully the ones in the middle are like the signs that you're winning, that we're on the way to those longer-term things. What we can then do is actually work backwards. So for each of our aspirations, do we know what are the signs that we are winning in our pursuit of that aspirational goal? And given each of those signs that you're winning, can we point to places where we might start? So, this already is, the beginnings of strategy. It's also what people in the OD community, the organization development community, call a theory of change. We are beginning to model the relationships between outcomes, how one outcome impacts another outcome, and so on. It's all very loose, all very informal here, but it's certainly a good start. And then the outside-in strategy review I mentioned, well, here's a template for it, and that same idea again. Ideal obstacles, outcomes across the top, short-term, medium-term, long-term within the outcomes column, and going down the side, customer, organization, product, platform, teams, and some challenge questions to go with those. You can just, answer those questions and fill this out. In practice, there's a whole load of material behind this that lets us dig into different aspects of the strategy, different kinds of customers, for example, the competitive ecosystem from an organization perspective, things like whole products and competitor products and service versus products in the product space, all these different considerations. And then, our goal then is to come up with some inspiring and challenging ideals, come up with some obstacles that currently face us, and then organize some outcomes into something that's at least the beginning of strategy. And we can do a lot better than short-term, medium-term, long-term. Our mapping module has 3 main mapping exercises: option approach mapping, option relationship mapping, pathway mapping. What they have in common, especially the first 2, but it's true to an extent of the third one. What we don't do is stick all the sticky notes up on the board, dot vote, cluster, and in so doing, throw away 90% of the information. So what we're doing instead, we're finding the corners, stretching things out, finding the sides, finding the top and the bottom, stretching, arranging outcomes between those extremes so that we can then identify the relationships between them and draw them. So a good example of this is the middle one of those exercises, option relationship mapping. Put them along a line in terms of how ambiguous they are. So the ones on the left here, highly ambiguous. We need to learn about what it is we want to achieve. We need to learn about, what obstacles in the way. We need to learn about what possible solutions we need to find, as opposed to the things on the right where it's pretty clear, what the issue is. It's pretty clear what needs to be done. So that's an interesting scale, and how you approach those different things is going to be different. And then we stretch them out vertically according to how visible they are to the customer. And very often you get things at the bottom right, the easy things to do are easy from a team's perspective, but they have very little effect on the customer. But perhaps we can find an outcome that's accessible to the team, but has an impact on something that the customer is going to benefit from, is going to see, going to experience. And we can draw lines between these things. We can look at different possible strategies and decide which is the one that we're going to pursue. This is called option relationship mapping. It was invented by two friends of mine, Liz Keogh and Carl Scotland, who you may know. It's inspired by the Cynefin framework and the Wardley mapping. So Wardley mapping is a great way of doing very similar diagrams, but with capabilities and components. We are doing mapping with outcomes, and as a strategy tool, we love it.